Last day of January here in 2022, and the first prescribed fire of the year here at the Proving Grounds. We're gonna burn about 10 acres of a hardwood flat. Mainly, I wanna kill ticks. A, that's always a goal. And B, just right over here, over the ridge, we've cut about 50 acres of cedar 2 years ago. Major habitat improvement program. So we're gonna burn a part of that line today because a black line, or an area that's black, had the fuel removed, is the best fire break. So for those of you that are starting to use prescribed fire as a habitat tool, or today's a good day just to follow along. I'll be sharing tips and techniques. So the wind is going a little bit this way. Normally, if the wind's going that way, I would start at that very corner, but again, that falls downhill. The wind is so light, the fire would probably go uphill faster than the wind's pushing it downhill. And an uphill burning fire, that's called a head fire, and it can get a little taller and may scar some of the bigger trees I don't want to harm. So I picked this spot based on the conditions. You always want to pick a spot based on the conditions. And today we're going to use a backing strip head fire. We're going to back it into the wind and down the slope. A couple tools you want to make sure. Of course, my crew, we wear Nomex. That's fire resistant clothing. Now, I mean, the flame height here is rarely going to be over a foot, so we could wear a good pair of blue jeans. Heavy jeans are fairly decent, you know, fire clothing. You don't want to have synthetic like nylon or sunproof shirts or something, because, boy, if you do catch on fire, it's going to melt your skin and be a really bad burn. So you want a thick cotton, preferably fireproof clothing or fire-resistant clothing like Nomex. And then you want to know the humidity. You can get a local weather forecast. I like to see what it is in the field. Try not to get where I'm speaking, because that's picking up the humid breath. And yeah, it's 31%, so it should carry pretty good today. We're currently at 31% and basically no wind. So it's going to be good burn conditions for our objective. You need some real sturdy boots, and I use a drip torch. I mean, I see people using all kind of stuff, from just dropping matches everywhere to a little propane or butane torch. Those are dangerous, folks. Get your drip torch. Never have more than 1/3 gas. We mix 2/3 diesel, 1/3 gas, and under hotter conditions where fire will spread more rapidly, we'll cut that down to 20% gas and 80% diesel. The diesel slows everything down. A good drip torch will have this kink in it, so the flame can't get back here, because if it got back there, that's like a bomb going off. Man, that's very dangerous. So, and of course, the way to ignite it, I've always got a lighter or matches. Really good leather gloves. You're gonna see a stick by tree you want to pull out so the tree doesn't get too hot or something. I start each year off probably with a new pair of leather gloves, and by the end of burn season, I may have a hole or two in there somewhere. So have some good leather gloves. Not synthetic gloves, not the new nylon gloves. Those are awesome for a hammer, but you don't want to put those babies by fire. So I'm just gonna pour some fuel out here. This is so small, if it doesn't behave like I want, I can stomp it out. So let's just pour a little fuel out here. There we go. You can see it's not too volatile here. And that's the start of the first prescribed fire for this season here at the Proving Grounds. You'll see it's just burning a circle. And it's gonna burn faster the way the wind is pushing it, and slower on the backing fire. So when you see a fire spreading evenly, the wind is not pushing it. If it takes off in one direction, then you know that's your head fire. But this circle is almost a perfect circle. You can go to the U.S. Weather Service, National Weather Service, what I do, and you're gonna look at the Haynes rate. That's an index 1 through 6 of how fire will spread, and it said it would spread pretty good today, and it is. It's just making a circle, spreading, putting some smoke up, and also the ventilation rate, or the ceiling, how high the smoke's going. And what I like to see, this smoke is pretty much going straight up. It's not drifting along somewhere. It's just going straight up. Now the wind just shifted towards me, and based on the conditions, I'll turn the valve way down so not as much fuel's coming out. You just got to drip it under these conditions. You just barely got to drip it, and it'll take off burning. And you don't need, a lot of people think they got to pour a whole line of fuel. Remember, fire's never satisfied, so I left a 6-foot gap. You look back at the gap to the left, it'll burn together. That just saves fuel, you know, and it just depends on how fast it's spreading. I'll drop every 6-10 feet. It's gonna burn together. big beautiful tree here in the white oak family, so I don't want any chance. White oak has a thinner bark, don't want any chance of it getting damaged. So before we did the fire, we went through here, and there's not that many big mature trees in this section of woods, and this little bit of flame coming from this leaf litter right here is not going to hurt that tree like that at all. Just if you got trees you absolutely want to protect, just remove the fuel around them. Then when it comes fire day, you have no issues. I'm coming around the fire line, you know, lighting edge, and I see up ahead a big dead tree. Of course, I knew it was here. That tree would burn right on the edge of a unit we don't want to burn right now. And the guys wisely, when they built the fire line, blew a line around it so the flame never gets there, and we don't have to nurse that thing all night trying to put it out. So what I'm going to do is just carefully light to the edge. You can see I'm keeping all my flame away from that really dry big old tree top that's laying down, all kind of leaf under it. I don't want it to catch on fire. Good fires are always built on the design and the prep. Lighting day should be fun. The guys did a great job blowing line around here. This tree, this species, has really thick bark. It's known to survive fire pretty good, but way back in time, it probably was a fire here. Something caused this protection, the armor of the tree. This is God's armor. And so there's this doty wood. If you don't know, hardwoods in the center, they're dead. That wood is there for structural support. The only thing living at this part of the tree is that cambium, the xylem and phloem. But if we didn't remove this fuel, and this is really thick leaf litter right here, then it would get this on fire probably. See how dry it is? And chimney, what we call chimney, burn right up the tree. Kill the tree for sure, and now you got flame coming out 20, 30 feet up in some hole somewhere, and it could be spitting flame across your fire line, blowing embers across your fire line. So you see this, especially if you want to save the tree or you don't want to deal with, you know, potential a fire jumping across your line. You want to remove the fuel, protect the tree, and save you some hours later on. And just do that, and once you got that sponge going, it's good to roast. That's exactly why you consider this a loaded weapon and only point it towards something you want to kill or ignite with fire. I blew it out 6 feet. If I, you know, lollygagging on my phone or something, turn around, well, I could blow flame over there, and then I'm chasing. I know some folks that kind of get lulled into just, well, I'm just lighting, everything's okay. Don't do that. You know, light 10, 15 yards. Look at your backfire, because conditions can always change, or snag catches on fire you missed that you can put out when it's just no big deal. Pour a bottle of water on it, something like that, put it out. But if you don't look back, you don't know what's happening, and conditions could get in such that it's a situation you got to hustle more on. So we got a little slope coming up from this way down here, and I don't want to just light the corner because that's just going to send the head fire up through here. So I'm going to light to about here, because if I go on down the road here and light this slope, it's going to gain some momentum that way, then head fire back up to the unit and damage some trees. So be thinking ahead, and this is in control. I'll probably walk my line back out this way, check it all. Got a great line here, 12 feet wide or so, low flame height, low wind speed. And by the time I come back around, this will back down that slope a good ways, and I don't have to worry about it. So I've got to this point. I want to start making acres this way, and then go check the other side. And by the time I get back around, I will have very calmly made a bunch of ground going down the slope. When you're checking your back line, I see this all the time. People think, well, man, I got to go right through that smoke. Don't do that. Just, if you look, you can walk 2 feet on the upside of the fire, be out of the smoke. You're not filling your lungs with smoke, so you got energy all day long. You know, smoke and heat will zap your strength. So just walk right above the fire, and Roy's looking over here to make sure there's no embers or sparks on this side. of the fire break. I can't imagine there is today. The conditions are perfect, but we're gonna check our back line. Now you can look up to the road and you can see a couple of yards because the wind shifted. That's a great lesson for hunting here in the Ozarks or most places. The wind shifts much more than I think a lot of people realize because they're sending trees down on their iPhone, not paying attention. And now it's coming back, look. Now we can't see very far because the smoke's coming back. And without a fire, that's what your scent is doing. You're breathing, you're respirating, you're putting scent out all the time, and your scent just starts making a scent cone around you. And it's tough for a deer to get within bow range. And fire is a great illustration of how the wind on these wind direction on these low wind speed days tends to swirl a lot or just push back and forth. Now I see one of my guys in yellow, see the Nomax up there. Not sure it's showing up on this little camera, but you can hear maybe the blower. He's just coming this way, check us out. So that saves me walking the back line.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by recolonize, Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, Lacrosse Footwear, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, RTP Outdoors, Fourth Arrow, Hunt Stand, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Burris Optics, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
So there's an old cedar top over here that's caught on fire, and it's died down now because it's burned right past it. When I come around the corner, it was 6 feet tall, and that scares people. Oh my gosh, it's California. It's already died down. It just burnt that fuel that was there, then laid back down to less than a foot tall. So when it gets to a cedar, especially a Christmas tree, a big log, maybe this log right here by me, it's gonna flame up, but it's all based on the fuel. You can't have more flames than the fuel and conditions permit. If it was super humid, this fire wouldn't even carry. We're down about 30% now. It's gonna carry good. And it went through the heavy fuel, and now look at it. It's 6-8 inches tall. So that's just how fire goes. And you're gonna have flame ups. What you wanna do is burn to meet your management goals, knowing there'll be exceptions. Places the fire won't carry, and places it'll get a bit hotter. So just all what we call little dust devils, little fire devils, and the wind will get just right with the heat and a cool spot, heat and cool, almost like a tornado, and it'll start little, those were, I don't know, 7-8 feet tall. You don't want that going into the fire. You don't want it going across because we're trying not to burn this side. You can tell if you look over in here, we just cut a bunch of cedars in here. And they're green, they won't burn that well, but I don't want to be chasing that rascal for sure. So you're gonna have dust devils, fire devils on any little fire because you get heat, cold, eddies around trees, stuff like that. What you don't want is those things going across your fire line. I've been out in Nevada fighting, big fires, 100,000 acre fires, and you see those things 70, 80 feet tall, and they're scary looking, especially at night. You don't see them at night much because everything cools down, humidity picks up. And remember, California, Nevada, Colorado, those states, that humidity can drop to, into single digits or low teens, and fire is extremely volatile in those situations. We were at 30 the last I looked here, another little dust devil right here. Maybe got a little personality to it. And see how it's blowing those little things around? Well, if they're not put out and they land over here, we might have to be chasing. It's gonna put itself out because it hit here, this cold ground, coming out of that little pocket right there. Anyway, in the Midwest, we're 30% today, and I almost never see the humidity lower than 30%. I mean, today's a good fire day, it's carrying well. 40, 50, 60%, I'm at 60%, it probably won't even carry through these leaves. So you gotta get it low enough to burn, and everyone says, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're burning because they just burned up all these houses in Colorado and California. Well, those are different conditions and a different fuel load. Totally different fuel load. This is a strip head fire. I'm just getting on, shoot, I'm 10 feet off there, but just, you can see how much faster the back flame is going than the flame over here on your right. That's a backing fire. this is a head fire, the wind pushing it into that, and the flame height is 2 or 3 times higher. Same fuel, same sun, same wind, but that's having to back into the wind, and the wind is pushing this. So I can't light near as aggressively with the head fire as I can a backing fire. But it's gonna put itself out as soon as it gets that black. So I'm just making a much larger black line or a fire break on this side. I have a little 10-foot or so head fire. So you can definitely see the difference in flame height. And once we get this fire here going, it's certainly pushing everything that way. Like again, fire can create its own weather, and now the heat is overcoming the change back and forth in the wind direction. And it's gonna burn there and burn itself out. Just watch this circle here. You can see how it's much bigger. Circle is much bigger on the upside and going to a point, and it's flat on the back where it was ignited, because this is having to back into the wind and go much slower, and that's a head fire rushing, so it's going out to a point, and then it'll burn together and put itself out. That's how you use fire to control fire, or fight fire, fire to fight fire.
You know, 6 to 8 inch flames backing fire. Heading your way here a bit. You need a water or anything? No, I'm good. Carter, can you come down, please? Yeah, headed there.
We talk about conditions changing, and here I am, I don't know, about 35 yards off the line. You can kind of see where we started lighting, and it was backing very nicely through here. But as we came through this timber, we kind of got to these areas where there's some pockets of sunlight, and the wind shifted that sunlight. That fire is going to eat where there's sunlight. That fuel's very dry, humidity is going to be a little lower. Conditions change, you know, within just a few yards of each other. So the wind is kind of shifted, and this fire is now pushing into the unit. It's kind of creating this head fire where we, you know, 10 yards ago we were just backing through. Now that fire's pushing in. So conditions can change very quickly. I'm sitting here, I'm watching this. We may have to step in and set another fire to kind of slow this fire down so we don't damage trees. We've got some gaps here with some saplings, but depending on how this fire reacts in the next 10-15 yards, we may need to hop in here and do something. We just don't want it ripping through.
Fire got a little hotter than I wanted, so it's backed off 20-30 yards, made a quick line. It's not gonna get out or anything, it just might damage some of the trees I want damaged. So again, I'm just using fire to kill fire, and this is sucking towards that flame. That one's moving this way, this is sucking to it, and then I'll just let that flame slowly back in here. So I got a fire behind us, I'll just let it slowly back in here. Wind changes direction, this is common. We get this out, and that'll just back the rest of the afternoon, be in great shape.
And I'm over here, and the flame's so small, I'm gonna take a couple bigger bites and see what happens.
Copy that. So you'll just dip in. So we always want to keep it pointing in a safe direction. Yep.
Wrapping up, you know, you always see a few critters. Daniel found a shed earlier. And some people ask when we show these prescribed fire videos about snakes, and I'm gonna tell you, I see a few carcasses when I'm walking up the next day or two. We may burn a snake or two. Many of the mature snakes just, you know, boogie out of here or go in a hole in the ground. I think a larger source of mortality is when they're in a hole in here, stump holes all over, and they come back up and it's just black, and they gotta crawl across some black for quite some time. Now, it's gonna rain, and then the forecast says 3 to 6 inches next couple of days, so This is not going to stay hot and black too long. We've killed a bunch of ticks today, but this is, again, a 10-acre unit, so deer are going to come in as soon as this greens up, start feeding. Ticks will shed off there. This is not a major tick killer. It's a good way to remove leaf litter, protect my neighbors from a wildfire getting out and harming them, serve as a fire break for a bigger fire we're going to do over there. May kill a few snakes, and of course snakes eat turkey eggs. I'm not trying to wipe them all out before I get that constant stream of hate mail y'all like to send. Not gonna wipe them out. And again, I go back to reading all these historians, these early explorers that kept a journal. They talked about big fires, you know, 75 miles across. They'd ride their horse across a fire scar, 75 miles. That's how you get rid of a bunch of ticks. But by the time it greens up in the center and deer, elk, buffalo, whatever got in there and fed, it's a long time. They're just feeding around the edges to start with that nice new food. So want to address that about snakes, and I'm going to keep light, and we're going to get this baby blacked out real soon. We are in the mop-up phase of the fire, which means it's black, it's all over, and we're just looking for hot spots. You might see a smoker or the end of a stump burning right behind me. It's not going anywhere, and there's a 90% chance of rain tomorrow. So really safe, successful burn today. Everyone thinks, boy, this is going to green up, but with this full canopy like you see behind me, when those leaves come out, there's not going to be enough sun getting through to really green up. But we removed a lot of fuel and killed some ticks and made a big black area so we can burn an even larger unit over here. This area now just becomes a fire line until leaves fall again this autumn. If you'd like to learn more about these techniques or see the before and after, we're going to host a field event March 25th and 26th here at the Prim Grounds. We limit it to 100 attendees so everyone can see the demonstrations and hear the speakers. If conditions are right, we'll do a small fire, like 10 feet by 10 feet, just to let people who've never been around a fire see how it behaves. Of course, we'll go through the release process, all our food plot techniques and our hunting strategies, where we place blinds, how we use trail cameras. It's a day and a half packed full of information. You can go to the website or check out this link to learn more about that. The word's kind of leaked out, and about 20 folks or so have already registered, so if you want to come, get on it. Hey, you know, doing fire and studying the old books, what the first settlers saw about fire, is a great way to learn about creation and be a good steward of the resource. But more important, we need to be intentional every day to seek the Creator's will for our life. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.